and thanks for staying on LN 24/7. This is Politics Now. My name is Morno Balagbogo. We've got quite a show for you, so get your family members to come to the couch and let's talk politics. Well, tonight we'll start with the economy and the welfare of Nigerians. That is what we will be looking at today on the show. So let's give you a rundown of our talking points. We'll look at the 2023 budget extension to December that's generating a whole lot of conversation, most especially coming from economists. Then 1 trillion palliative reconstruction and household support program. And we'll look at the concerns over CBN's 26% interest rate and the gains from the new withholding tax policy. What's it all about and how does it affect the economy in general? Well, our guest will be joining us via video call. He's a lecturer at the University of Abuja, Dr. Samson G. Simon. He's an economic expert and he will be helping us make sense actually of all about the economy and of course the welfare of Nigerians under President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Also tonight we'll talk about South Africa's new coalition government. Let's give you a new rundown rather of our talking points. We'll look at reactions to the national executive and also can coalition put aside ideological differences and setting the agenda for newly formed cabinet. Joining us on video call later on the show will be Professor Tumi Bibi-Senokwane, a political analyst, and of course he's a lecturer at the University of South Africa, UNISA. Government's decision to extend the 2023 budget implementation cycle from June 30th to December 31st, 2024 has drawn quite the reactions. The extension was approved by both the Senate and House of Representatives. And analysts are foreseeing that the move may see the government abandoning the 2024 projects to focus on the 2023 projects. And economic experts are also saying the extension of the 2023 budget means that it will run concurrently with the 2024 budget, and they said the government may have decided to extend its implementation to be able to implement some line items that may not have been captured in the 2024 budget. Now, earlier the Senate in Nigeria has decided to extend the implementation of the budget until the 31st of 2024. So when you look at it critically, it means we have two budgets running at the same time. The 2023 supplementary budget will be implemented alongside the 2024 budget, which is worth 28.78 trillion naira, including the 2023 extension of the budget. So this decision was made during an emergency plenary session presided over by President Senator Godswill Akpabio. And of course, there's just quite a lot to talk about it regarding this particular issue, because I recall the presidency releasing a statement countering what Peter Obi, said that we have 4 budgets, occurring concurrently. So, Dr. Simon, thank you so much for being with us on Politics Now.
Thank you for having me.
So what are the implications for this move? Because I'm just trying to make sense of it all, because for some of us who don't follow, the nitty-gritty of the economics of the nation, we might seem confused. Okay, so what are these politicians up to again?
Nigeria is running intends to run 4 budgets concurrently. The 2023 budget, the 2023 supplementary budget, 2024 budget, and then they're proposing a supplementary budget for 2024. I think that creates a lot of confusion. What is normally done is, if you have a budget, there's a time frame, and it's a law, and it's supposed to be for a specific time. So if you're doing anything outside that time, it looks suspicious, and it creates confusion too. If there are certain things that you couldn't do in the previous budget, you can transfer some of these items, some of these projects into the new budget. But it doesn't make sense for you to run so many budgets at the same time. And what about the revenue? Are we saying that do you have other sources of revenue that will cater for these different budgets? Or is it still the same one, or is the same sources of revenue that will be used to cater for 4 different budgets at the same time. So it's highly suspicious, and there is no place that I know of that actually runs this type of thing. So I'm not saying that people should not be innovative, but when you're innovative, it should be for the better. But I don't think this one is actually for the better.
Okay, Doctor, this is not the first time this is happening. What do you make of the justification from the National Assembly regarding this, saying, okay, we don't want the projects, that were supposed to be carried out within the course and jurisdiction of the 2023 budget to be left out?
This is not the first time. We have had budgets in the past that were not within the budget cycle. I know before President Buhari, we could hardly pass our budgets on time, and sometimes up to the first or even the second quarter of the following year, when the budget should have started at the beginning of the year. And the last government tried and made sure that the budget was passed before the year that the budget is supposed to run. And in instances where they couldn't execute everything, they have allowed it to extend the following year, maybe by a quarter or so. And even for this 2023, they accepted that it should extend up to the middle of this year. But now they're saying it should run till the end of the year. So that's the unusual thing there. And as much as you want to execute projects and you have pending items that are not actually executed, the right thing should have been you don't, it's like trying to actually cut more than you can chew at the time. If you have some projects that you feel can be executed within a year, then there should be a template, there should be a plan on how to finish that project within a year. And perchance that is not done, that is not finished, then even the grace of the quarter is not bad. But saying a budget that is supposed to be for 1 year is taking you 2 years to execute the items, that is going beyond the pale. We all want good things for this country. All Nigerians, we're all patriots, and we want what is best for the country. But that doesn't come at the detriment of doing the right things. How do you even do that? I believe they are even mutually exclusive. You cannot do the wrong things, and you say that you want the country to actually forge ahead. So if there are certain items that you have not been able to finish within a year, these items can be migrated into the new budget. And even the funding and everything can be migrated into the new budget. And then you're running a budget for a year. You have to be consistent. The fiscal year is normally 12 calendar months. So for our own, we have decided to choose the calendar months from January to December. Other countries, they do May till April the following year. And I know of a country that also does October to September. So if the January to December cycle is not working, you don't have to be fixated on it. But it doesn't make sense for you to run so many budgets at the same time. And at the end of the day, it only leads to confusion.
Okay, now, Doctor, because, just listening to your explanation, it boils down to proper planning, and taking out time to ensure that what is the right thing that is needed to be done should be done. Because this increases the fear of corruption. No wonder we've seen the likes of the opposition like Peter Obi and also former Vice President Atiku Abubakar come out to, tell the government that this is not wrong. We've seen cases where, even lawmakers within the National Assembly has allayed fears of corruption and speculations of budget padding. So does this just add more fire to the, I would say, mistrust, that's the word to use, in the ability of the government and also the National Assembly to do things properly and set a precedence for people that are working within the administration?
All right. I understand. The EFCC chairman was talking about when the budget cycle is supposed to end at a particular time, and you still have unspent money, and what they do is they create things just to exhaust the money. I think what we need to do is to tackle that problem instead of creating more problems for ourselves. If people are abusing the powers that they have been given, You understand? You're supposed to execute a project and you don't execute that project. You still have unspent money and you decide to create fictitious projects and items, right, so that you can exhaust the money. If there's anything suspicious, that's why we have the EFCC and the ICPC. So far, they have not even brought down corruption. You set them up because of corruption, and what exactly have they been doing to bring down corruption? What was our ranking that prompted us to set up these agencies? And what is our ranking today? It's largely the same, if not worse. So they need to do their job. If people are abusing that, then tackle the problem. Don't create another avenue for people to even be more corrupt. Because by running so many budgets at the same time, you're creating a lot of rooms, a lot of ambiguity, a lot of opportunities or avenues for people to corrupt the entire system.
All right, now, Doctor, let's talk about the issue of the financing, because to finance the budget, you're going to borrow money and you're also going to generate income. You have the 2024 budget, running already. Then you have the supplementary budget, okay, which is about to be brought forward to the National Assembly for them to pass through. And from all indications, they're going to do that. Then the 2023 budget extension, again, let's talk how the financing is going to work, because help us make it make sense, because it is your job. Because in my mind, I'm just wondering, okay, where is this money going to come from? The 2024 budget is running, the supplementary budget is coming up, and then the 2023 budget extension again. What happens to recurring expenditure in a budget? We should make up from, what was before that could not be completed.
All right, a budget normally is a projection. You have your expected revenue, right? And how you're going to deploy this revenue to tackle different problems within an economy. So it's not like you have money kept somewhere just waiting for you to spend. As you're going, you're generating the revenue, you spend it. So now, unless if you have some money stashed away somewhere, which we know we don't have such, we're hardly saving, we're running deficit budgets. So it's the same sources of revenue, whether it's the proceeds from selling oil, crude oil, whether it's the taxes that the FRS collects, or other sources of income, borrowings inclusive. And by extending it, it means you have to borrow money, because some of these items do not have the revenue. So some of these projects do not have the revenue or the resources or the money for them to be executed. And if you cannot generate revenue within 1 year to execute 4 different budgets, then you have to source the money elsewhere. You have to borrow, whether domestically or you go across borders to borrow such money so that these projects can be executed. And in instances whereby you have gotten the money you have projected and for a particular project, and then the project has not been executed, then you are largely okay. But the likely scenario is that you have to look for money elsewhere, and it's likely going to be borrowing.
Okay, now let's step away from the issue of the budgets now and move to our second talking point, because the president kind of felt the heat during the Democracy Day celebrations, and of course the celebration of his 1 year in office. That was May 29th. In a bid to aid the welfare of Nigerians in the midst of the economic hardship, the presidency recently unveiled the Reconstruction and Household Support Program, which include federal government prioritizing Sokoto-Badagry Highway under the program, Lagos-Calabar Coastal Highway, other road infrastructure projects, Port Harcourt-Maiduguri Railway, also through the reconstruction program. Then 10 billion naira for purchases of CNG buses in addition to the projects, and approval of 50,000 naira grants, one of the key component of the program, which is the approval of 50,000 naira uplift grant to be distributed to 100,000 families per state for 3 months, and also the provision Federation of Labor Unions and civil society organizations amid the talks for a new national minimum wage, and labor unions comprising the NLC, the TUC, as well as other civil society organizations are beneficiaries of this federal government's new initiative. And the final one, Doctor, is the 155 billion food packages for households. And he has revealed that 115 billion naira will be earmarked also for the purchase and distribution of CNG buses, and a lot going into food security and foodstuff to be distributed across the nation. Now, when you look at the statistics, Doc, you have a population that's over 200 million. How will this, it's like throwing something into a river and then expecting it to, trickle and spread all across the country. Now, this is commendable, I must say, but what do you make of this initiative by the president to actually help, quench, to reduce actually the economic hardship in the nation?
These programs are noble in themselves. They look like good plans because the truth is that there's a lot of suffering. The purchasing power of Nigerians have been chipped away at. And even for people that are making some money, their capacity to even feed their families, to cater for the needs of their families, their capacity has largely been eroded. So there is a need for government to support the most vulnerable in the society. When we said we were going to remove subsidy, we said resources will be freed up, and these resources are better allocated to provide social safety nets for the most vulnerable, to provide infrastructure, to provide healthcare and better education. And I think that's what this government is trying to do, even though the object of subsidy removal is still in contention. The government has not openly considered that they are still paying subsidy when the evidence is overwhelming, and some authorities have also come forward to make such statements. Because if you look at the landing cost, you look at the cost at filling station, there's a difference. Somebody is covering the difference, and that's what subsidy is about. So it's a good thing that they have good and noble plans for the population. But how sure are we that these resources, the 50,000 that will be given to households, will actually get to these households? Do you have the register to show people, or is it the way the last administration just spent money with no proper accountability, with no proper data, with no proper register? I think certain things have to be put in place. As excited as some of us are that this thing will actually help the needy in Nigeria, those people that are really struggling, even to feed themselves, Nigeria is one place on earth where food is the least affordable. There's no place on earth where households spend 60% of their income on food. There's no place in the world. So Nigerians are suffering. And if you look at even the availability too, we're almost at the bottom of the list. So it's good that the government is doing that, but they have to be careful. While you're trying to solve one problem, you may create another. I remember the central bank coming forward that the federal government going to the market to buy food is crowding out the poor, it's crowding out the Nigerian population. So we have issue of availability. It's not only affordability. So by government pumping money to buying food to serve as palliatives to people, they are creating problems too. So they have to be conscious of that fact. There's nothing, I know Nigerians tend to demonize imports, but there's nothing wrong about imports. If you don't have a competitive edge, if you don't have a competitive advantage in the production of a certain item, there's nothing embarrassing about importing that as a temporary measure. I know each country wants to be self-sufficient, particularly in food production. But the truth is that we're not self-sufficient, and the major problem that is causing that, the paucity of food, is insecurity. Are we tackling the problem of insecurity? Or are we just doing cosmetics as usual? Tackle the problem of insecurity. Provide mechanization for farmers. Provide them with improved breeds and inputs, and see how our farmers would excel. But the moment we keep kicking the can down the road, how much palliatives can you offer? It's just a drop in the ocean, right? So the best thing is to help people to do things themselves, not to do it for them. The Chinese say that do not teach me, do not give me a fish, teach me how to catch a fish. make Nigeria the most friendly environment to do business. Encourage agriculture by providing security for farmers. They don't need to be afraid of being kidnapped or being killed when they go to their farmland, right? And you provide them with machinery and modern farming tools and modern farming practices, then we will be able to feed ourselves. We have more than enough arable land. If we are a little bit more productive, if we can increase the yields, that will go a long way. Then in terms of infrastructure, I think it's good that they're talking about Badagry, Sokoto, the Lagos, Calabar is still there. You're talking about the route from Batakwa, the Eastern Corridor to Maiduguri. All these are really good things. But we should not also be in a hurry just do things. As good as this project seems, have we actually conducted the study to know the impact on the environment? Do we also know that how these projects will pay for themselves? Or are we just creating burden for future generations and then maybe we start a project and abandon it midway? So there are thousands and thousands of projects, government projects that have been abandoned halfway. And then some of these projects are funded with loan funds. So you are creating problems for the country, and then there's no benefit whatsoever attached. So many things have to be taken into consideration. And one should not just jubilate because government has made a pronouncement. A lot of things are involved. As noble as it seems, we wait to see the actual result and the effectiveness of all these programs.
Excellent analysis, Doctor, there. I recall you talking about the fact that economic hardship can only be resolved by tackling the high cost of living. Now, what do you think this administration can also do to address the high cost of living? I know you mentioned addressing food insecurity and all of that. And like you said, because these palliatives will likely not go round to the majority of the people, as beautiful as they are, just to have more on how to address the issue of the high cost of living presently in the country?
Well, the primary responsibility of government is the welfare of the people. First and foremost, you have to ensure the security of life and property, right? And ensure their civil liberties are not trampled upon. And government is limited. If government can only go as far, they should try to co-opt private sector, provide the enabling environment for all commerce. Nigerians are not lazy. We're very hardworking people, and we like the good things of life. There's nothing wrong about wanting the good things of life, as long as you're willing to pay the price to apply yourself and work and make the money to take care of yourself and your loved ones. Just create that enabling environment. Then that's what government should be worried about. When we were ranked lowly on ease of doing business, the former Vice President Osibajo decided to embark on reforms, and that has largely improved our ranking. We know we are not there yet. We are not one of the best yet, but there's an improvement. And there are metrics for ease of doing business. Make Nigeria the easiest place not only to do business, but also for agriculture. Provide the tools that the farmers will require. And telling all Nigerians to become farmers has never worked for us. We know that just a handful of us can actually produce enough that can meet their needs and enough to meet the needs of the entire population and even to export. But those people cannot do it on their own. There's a need for that enabling environment. There's a need for that conducive environment for them to thrive. So that's what government should worry about. How many people can the government feed? How much palliative can be given to people? How many people even have it? And sometimes these things are hijacked by politicians. So these things are just cosmetics. All these palliatives are cosmetics. We need we need structural changes away from primary sector. We need to do a lot of value addition. Nigerians need to be groomed in such a way that they acquire skills that are in demand, whether within Nigeria or outside the country. That's the way a country prospers. We need to be innovative, and government needs to encourage that innovation. So a lot of things can be done if only we set our sights on those right things. But as long as we continue moving in cycles, cosmetics, talking about things that have never worked in the past, we were doing Operation Feed the Nation under Obasanjo, the Green Revolution, and so many programs. But largely we have been lagging. We can hardly feed ourselves. So the government needs to provide that environment, right? Security is cheap for life and property.
You couldn't have said it better, Doctor. But let's move to our third talking point with concerns from people in the business sector who are complaining about the interest hike rate, which is at present, close to 30%. But I just wanted to harp on what Alhaji Aliko Dangote stated, that no economic growth will happen unless the bank interest rate at 30% declines. And he says the cause of the inflation in major advanced economies in Europe and the United States that necessitated interest rates hikes was different from that of developing countries, mostly in Africa. Now, Doctor, I know some of the economists, and those who are in support of the interest rate hike believe that this will help to reduce inflation. But when you have the richest man in Africa complaining about interest rate, what about small-scale businesses, business owners rather? This is definitely going to have a chain reaction that will trickle down to the masses, because if someone like Dangote is complaining, he must definitely be feeling the bites of the interest rate. So I would love for you to kind of take us back through the logic behind hiking the interest rates, because this will affect businesses. If it affects businesses, we know it will affect job availability. And also stakeholders in the business community, Doctor, are also questioning the effectiveness of this hike at taming inflation, stating that it hurts the real economy by increasing the cost of accessing capital, which is very, very important. Just walk us through your thoughts, Doctor.
Dangote is the richest man on the African continent and is an important factor in the Nigerian economy. So anytime he talks, people listen, including the government. And then talking about acting on that, because if you listen is one thing, acting on it, actually doing something effective is another thing. Mind you, the monetary authorities are meant to be independent of the fiscal authorities. They're supposed to complement each other. I understand the interest rates are quite high, but if you look at our population, our inflation level, we're talking about 33 points. Almost 34%. So the interest rate is still below inflation, and that means negative real interest rate. So considering our inflation, the interest rate might not even be high enough. I know it looks crazy, but if you want to bring down interest rates, then you have to bring down inflation. And what exactly, because for the monetary authorities, the most powerful tool they have to tackle inflation, to protect the purchasing powers of Nigerians and even businesses, is by tackling inflation, by hiking interest rates, right? But for fiscal authorities, which are supposed to meet the monetary authorities halfway, have they actually done that? Because the major problem is agriculture. Food inflation is higher than core inflation or even headline inflation. What exactly, and that's not within the remit of the central bank or the monetary authorities. What exactly are the fiscal authorities doing? You don't just arbitrarily crash interest rates or hike interest rates. There is always a reason for hiking rates. And for now, there are good reasons for hiking interest rates. And I know that the hiking of the rates might not have given us what we desire, yes. But that's one way the monetary authorities can actually tackle inflation. That's arguably the most powerful way. So it's about the fiscal authorities playing their own part, and then they meet halfway, and we bring down inflation. If we bring down inflation, there is no need of keeping interest rates high again. Interest rates can also be brought down. As much as I understand the pains of businesses, the purchasing power of even businesses is being eroded by high inflation, and everything must be done to tackle that inflation. So we need is a balancing act, and I think that Dangote understands that.
All right. Okay, Doctor, thank you for your wonderful analysis there. Now, before I let you go, I want us to talk on the Presidential Committee Fiscal Policy Tax and Tax Reforms by Taiwo Oyedele. On Tuesday, he announced that President Bola Tinubu approved the new withholding tax regime for the country, with the official gazette expected to be signed in the coming days. Now, the withholding tax is a method from collecting income tax in advance, and it's deducted at rates ranging from 5% to 10% based on the transaction, and returns are due by the 21st of the following month. And the penalty for late filing is 25,000 naira for the first month and 5,000 naira each for subsequent month of non-compliance. Now, Dr. Taiwo was saying that key changes introduced to the rewritten withholding tax regime will include reduced rates for businesses with low margins, measures to curb evasion and tax avoidance, exemption of small businesses from withholding tax, clarity on the timing of deductions and key terms. And the federal government also approved the exemption of these small businesses. Doctor, I was talking about the fact that it's very, very important that just like Dangote was happy on the interest rates, that these businesses are able to thrive, because if they do thrive, it's for the benefit of the country and also the benefit of Nigerians, because that means we can guarantee jobs. And also farmers too are also going to benefit from the withholding tax as a way of reducing tax burden. So Doctor, let's come back to you just to look at this initiative from this administration. What do we stand to gain from this, and how does this affect the economy of Nigeria?
Well, at the chair of these reforms, Taiwo Oyedele, working on our taxation and our fiscal policy generally, has been talking about this. The withholding tax was introduced in 1977, and revenue has been generated. But we know that we have so many taxes in Nigeria, and a number of taxes has not actually helped with generating taxes. There are countries in the world that have maybe less than a quarter of the number of taxes we have in Nigeria, and they generate far more. So it's not about the number of taxes. And you don't tax businesses into non-existence. You don't tax business into stunting them. So what they're trying to do is they want to allow nano and MSMEs, they want to remove them from this withholding tax. If your turnover is something in the region of 25 million, right, you should not be doing withholding taxes for the government. You should not be taking taxes at source on behalf of the government. So what they're trying to do is to allow these small businesses to grow. And then when they are strong enough, when they are sure-footed, then you can tax them. But the business is upcoming, is struggling, and you're trying to impose, or you have been imposing taxes on them, and they have failed to grow. So I think that's a good thing Taiwo Oyedele is trying to do. Small businesses that have meager turnovers should not be asked to remit withholding taxes. They should be exempted from that. That will help them to grow. And what we need is better tax administration, and any loopholes that we have, like he was talking about avoidance and evasion of taxes, all those things should be.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Samson G. Simon, for being with us. He is an economics expert and also a lecturer in one of the top universities right here in Abuja. Don't go anywhere. But Prof, we have to let you go. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, you're still watching Politics Now. Well, we'll go on a short break. When we come back, we'll talk about South Africa's new coalition government. There's so much to talk about, so stay with us. Glad afternoon. You're still watching Politics Now right here on LN 24/7. Well, we continue with the show this time around, move away from Nigeria to South Africa. And new coalition government, of course, has been inaugurated in South Africa. Let's give you a rundown of some of our talking points. We'll be looking at reactions to the National Executive Council. Can coalition put aside ideological differences? And then setting the agenda for the newly formed cabinet. Our guest joins us via video call, Professor Tumi Bibi Senokwane. He's a political analyst and also a lecturer at the University of South Africa, UNISA. Well, we'll come to you, Prof, in a short bit, but let's let you know that President Cyril Ramaphosa named 32 ministerial positions of the Government of National Unity late on Sunday, following weeks of deadlock at the delayed formation of a historic governing coalition. The announcement sees 20 of the 32 posts going to the ANC. Another 6 will be filled by the Democratic Alliance, DA party, with the remainder split among a crowd of smaller coalition parties. Now, accustomed to the comfortable victories of more than 60%, the ANC won just 40% of the vote in the May 29 election, as South Africans turned away from the party amid frustration over poverty, poor services, and some of the world's highest rates of inequality and unemployment. But the rival DA took the second largest share with 21%. Now, it took more than a month of complex political maneuvering and concessions from the ANC to piece together the government in a nod to the DA. And its leader, John Steenhuisen, was appointed the Minister of Agriculture. But let's look at what he said, some days ago regarding this new government that has been formed.
The configuration that we have managed to negotiate ensures that alongside the ANC, the DA is the only other party that is now represented across every one of the clusters in government. The time for collaboration has arrived. But this collaboration is not only between political leaders. Collaboration is now also required between the Government of National Unity and the people who...
Okay, he says the collaboration is for the Government of National Unity. Well, at the same time, Ramaphosa maintains the ANC's hold on the Ministry of Trade and Industry, which is a key portfolio, of course, that the DA was also seeking, but they didn't get that. He got agriculture. And the ASC's Paul Mashatile will also continue as Deputy President. Well, today, Wednesday, they were announced, of course. You've got 32 ministers, 43 deputy ministers for the 7th Democratic Administration under the Government of National Unity, GNU, an agreement with 10 other political parties. Now, this will be the first time in the country's democracy that the national executive comprises of a combined leadership of members from 9 different political parties. And the South Africa's new unity government under President Cyril Ramaphosa sworn in today during a televised ceremony in Cape Town, the 32 ministers making up the cabinet. Paul Mashatile, of course, reappointed as the deputy president here. That's him taking his oath earlier today. And the historic party keeps 20 cabinet positions. You've got Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Finance, Defense, Justice, and Police. Its largest coalition partner and a long-time critic, the Democratic Alliance DA, will head 6 ministries, including Agriculture, which Steen, who you just listened to a while ago, is going to be heading. Then Public Works and Communication. Then you have the Zulu Nationalist Inkatha Freedom Party, the Anti-Immigration Patriotic Alliance, Right-Wing Afrikaans Party, Freedom Front Plus, and other smaller parties will hold 6 cabinet positions between them. Now, this new government heralds a pragmatic shift to the center-right, bringing hope for better governance, but also cohesion fears. Well, joining us right now via video call from South Africa is Professor Bibi Senokwane. Thank you so much, Prof, for being with us tonight.
Thank you very much.
Well, the pleasure is mine. Good to have you with us again. There's been many reactions to the national executive in the country, a total of 32, which is more than what was existing before, with critics calling it a waste of taxpayers' money. You know something, Prof? In Nigeria, we were quite, really worried when the president announced, 54 ministers. I mean, which is a far cry of what used to be before. And this is also playing out in South Africa. Prof, what can you tell us of what people are saying over this?
The reality of the matter is that first and foremost, there has been an arrangement between the African National Congress, the main, the biggest after the ANC will be the Democratic Alliance with 22% or so. They have then joined hands with other smaller political parties, the PAC, Pan-Africanist Congress, with Good and also with Razim Zanti and others, IFP, NFP, to work together. This is the arrangement that we've seen through the Government of National Unity. Of course, it nearly collapsed last week, or this week rather, the past week, when there was an attempt by DA to have ridiculous demands, demanding 12 ministerial positions, its deputies in those departments, the director generals in those departments, and hinting the possibility of reversing some of the tenders that were done in this particular period. But the ANC did not like that, push back, eventually engaged some parties such as the EFF. But at the last hour, then an argument was reached between the ANC, DA, and other smaller political parties. And that's why we've seen it. In fact, the ministerial positions that we've seen, they've been ballooned. If you see, we used to have one minister, one deputy minister. But in other instances, just to cater for other members of the Government of National Unity, the statement of intent, you see that there are now deputy ministers in other instances to cater for others. So the voters and the citizens of South Africa have got different views. Others argue that is the best in as far as DA will bring an element of accountability together with other smaller political parties. Others view it as regression because it is viewed as the return of whiteness, white symbols, white standards, in white habits in the South African Republic. So that's more or less where we are.
Okay, now, Prof, considering the fact that some of these black parties who are complaining that the cabinet is now integrated in the whites back into power, they had the opportunity to, get a deal with the leading ANC, but did not. And the ANC went to those who were ready to partner with them. So where is all this complaining coming from?
The reality of the matter is that one would have wished to see black parties uniting and working together and advancing the agenda of the country, because you will know Africa, in this regard, South Africa suffered for long the consequences of whiteness, colonialism, and apartheid. But the reality of the matter is that what we see happening now, it is as a result of what has been happening at municipality election. And as a result, now it has been transferred into national elections. The reality of the matter is that, of course, it was up to the ANC to decide which political party they think that will work better with them. And based on what we see now, ANC feels more comfortable working with the Democratic Alliance and other smaller political parties. ANC, by the way, opted for Government of National Unity for simple reason. They want to take everyone along so that if they are failures, they should be seen to have failed together. If it works, other smaller political parties, DA and others, will be credited in the next coming 5 years, including the ANC, for having worked together for the betterment, the development, and the success of the country. But should the government of national unity fail, it will then give opportunity to MK party led by former President Jacob Zuma and EFF equally to be seen as alternative because they would have failed together. So it's a game of wait and see. And 5 years will be that barometer to tell us what will be, the views of the voters, of citizens after that.
Okay, Prof, let's talk about the government of national unity. The ANC and the DA seems to have different points of view on how they want to govern the country. You recall during the election campaigns where they were all out and the DA was bent on unseating the ANC, but that has not panned out very well. So it's like two unlikely sides, attracting to each other to govern South Africa. How will this work, given the points of view that they are coming from and how different they are?
It's still early to tell, but I can tell you based on the coalition governments in municipalities, they have not lasted beyond the term that was given. They always collapse in between the terms. So the expectation will be that because of the same reason that you are alluding to, ideological differences, philosophical differences, there was going to be naturally a clash between different political parties and also how they operate, how they implement, how they interpret decisions and documents. So I do not see it lasting in all honesty, but of course, it will be helpful and beneficial if they are able to work together at least for the next coming 5 years. But like I said, the municipality elections have proven to us that all these agreements do not last, at least to the last day. All of them will tell you that sometimes it's ideological or philosophical, only to find out that the issues about the contestation of resources that they equally want to participate and share amongst themselves. Because remember, any political party that gets resources will be able to translate those resources to their political party strategy in the next coming 5 years, funding of their own political parties by business and so forth. So business naturally will invest in whoever is providing them opportunities in their spaces. Then that's the game that we are going to see happening in the next coming 5 years. And it might be detrimental to the country equally if it is not correctly managed.
Prof, the ANC and the DA, are at loggerheads in Gauteng province. Can you help us break down the bone of contention there? Because, it will seem that they have partnered together to form this new coalition, but there's still some issues regarding these provinces, because I think I was watching one of the interviews where one of the leaders in the DA was speaking about the fact that, the ANC cannot just control everything amongst the municipalities within this province, especially that of Gauteng. What can you tell us?
In Gauteng province, ANC in Gauteng has good relationships with other political parties such as the EFF and so on and so forth. But what we've seen is that the DA had made some demands which the ANC in Gauteng sees them or view them as ridiculous. And in fact, ANC in Gauteng has already decided the list of MECs in Gauteng, excluding the DA in the list. But it has reached an agreement with other political parties to reach 50+1. And yesterday, when they were about to make an announcement, the national leadership of the ANC asked them to pause that announcement so that they try to see if they cannot persuade the national leadership of DA to speak to the ones in Gauteng and equally do so as the ANC national leadership with those in Gauteng. But DA wanted to exclude some political parties and for example, but the Gauteng ANC is refusing. So we'll have to wait and see the involvement of the both national structures of the ANC and DA, how far they will go in trying to mitigate and reconcile two parties. But the Gauteng ANC has put its foot down and saying they do not necessarily need the DA to conclude a deal. But remember that any deal that will have to be closed in a province has an effect in how the agreement was drafted at the national structure. So they'll have to try to balance and make sure that they are in line within the statement of intent that was signed nationally.
Okay, now, Prof, let's leave the politicians at the moment. Let's talk about the voters, the people that put these people in power. What are their expectations? Inequality and unemployment are big issues in South Africa, not to talk of infrastructure. So how will they be able to meet these expectations, considering the various sides that these politicians are coming from? So let's talk about the voters.
Like I said, there are mixed reaction and mixed expectations. But the biggest, I think it should be that whoever is in government should be able to service the people of South Africa. They should be able to improve both infrastructure. They should be able to improve the quality of education. They should be able to make education accessible, especially financially, for all the poorest of the poorest. They should be able to provide land for those who are in need of land. They should be able to open the gates of farming for Black people and sustain farming in general. So those are some of the few examples that one will have to share to say these are the expectations that we are having as South African. But whether with this mixed ideological or cocktail of ideologies, whether it will work, it will have to wait for another day and see how far it will work. Perhaps in 2 years' time, we should have an idea of how far it will go.
Okay. Now, Prof, before we let you go, I wanted to ask you about the agenda, because in Nigeria, sorry, I'm making reference to Nigeria, our president says he has the Renewed Hope agenda. Given the way politics is in South Africa, you've got these political parties with their various agendas. Now, you're bringing almost 9 political parties together. How do you unify that agenda? What's the agenda for this new formed government in South Africa?
The reality of the matter is that the statement of intent says nothing or less about the agenda, except to speak about who should be deployed, the issues of sharing of seats, officials, and so deployment of officials. But it says nothing so far about the agenda itself. So, but there is a clause in the statement of intent to saying that they'll have to meet and try to map out the way forward. Only after they have met as a group of those who are part of the government of national unity, we will only know them. But as we stand today, that agenda is not yet clear. But it will mean that in whatever they be agreeing of, it will be the abandonment of their different manifestos and try to, conceptualize something new, draft something new, that collectively they will be able to agree and drive together as different political forces.
All right, Professor Bibi Tumi Senokwane, thank you so much for being with us. Our time is fast spent, but we've got to go. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you very much, my friend.
Pleasure is mine. Well, our time is fast spent. We've got to go. Thank you so much for watching Politics Now tonight. We'll see you on Friday. Keep a date with us once again. My name is Morno Balagugu. Many thanks for watching.